All right, everybody. My guest on the show today is my good friend, Santa, not Santa, Santa Victorio. And you're going to find out why in a minute. Santa Victorio, holistic sales coach. Santa, we finally made this happen.
Finally, after years.
After years, Santa and I have known each other for over 3 years now. Santa used to live in New York City, and now you're coming to us from across the pond. So good afternoon from where you are. Where are you right now?
I am in Luxembourg, which, by the way, is not part of Germany, not part of France, not part of Belgium, and not part of the UK, because everyone thinks that's where it is. It's actually its own little country, sandwiched between Belgium, France, and Germany.
Wait, there's people who think that Luxembourg is not a country?
Yeah, I think like most of the population that is from America. That is my sample size. But I would say most of the population in America that I've spoken to is like, oh, that's so cool that you live in Germany. And I was like, no, very close. You know, it's better than being like, oh, I'm so happy you live in Lithuania.
Yeah.
But it's still wrong.
Yeah, that's just plain wrong. You live in Luxembourg, which is a country in the EU.
Exactly. Wow.
To be very clear.
So well versed in your EU countries.
Yeah, I was just to brag a little bit, I was a geography. I was a state geography finalist in 7th grade, which is the highlight of the pinnacle of my entire career.
What?
Yeah, so I actually really liked geography growing up. Like geography, I was like obsessed with maps, and I was like where the countries were and all flags and stuff like that. Not so much anymore, but you know, it's fun. I knew Luxembourg was a country.
No way.
So that's the highlight of my intellect for this episode. Yeah.
Wait, quick. What is the country under Minnesota? Oh, no, excuse me. The state under Minnesota.
Under Minnesota is Mexico.
Oh, perfect. Yep.
Yeah. What was the last question there?
What is the state under Minnesota? I know that's a hard one for you.
That's a really hard one. I've only driven through it about 100 times. It's Iowa.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Santa. So let's kick this off. You are an avid listener of the show. You know some of my guests. So you know what's coming first, my dear. So what's something you nerd out about?
Oh, my goodness. The thing I nerd out about is psychology. I can listen to content on psychology all day. I can talk about psychology all day, and I kind of do. My poor partner, I'm always just like, blah, blah, blah about psychology, and he's always so kind and listens to everything I say. But like literally every free moment that I have is something psychology related, whether I'm watching a YouTube video on attachment styles, how to create intimacy, or my best guilty pleasure is this YouTuber. You should definitely check him out. Mm-hmm. He's a psychologist who reviews like all the best reality TV shows, like 90 Day Fiancé.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and Love is Blind. His name is Psychology in Seattle, Mr. Kirk Honda. And I would love to meet him. He has taught me so much about psychology. I literally like spend all my free time watching his videos and then listening to other psychologists talk about the beautiful world of psychology.
You know, you've just inspired me to reach out to him to see if he wants to come on the show.
That would be such an amazing episode.
Yeah, you would. That would look at that. So let's partner up on that. So we'll give him a shout out and we'll hit him up. Yeah, I realize you're a psychology fan because I texted you last week about Dan Pink, who has the new book out, The Power of Regret, which is the psychology of regret. I also really like psychology. It makes sense based on the profession that you do and I do. And I looking back, I wish I would have been a psychology major. I don't like the science of it. I don't actually care about the neuroscience of it. I really like the thoughts versus feelings. What's it for? What is our ego? What's our subconscious doing? So Santa, what part of psychology do you enjoy the most? Like if you're going to dig into one part of psychology, what would be the thing that you're most interested in?
This is going to scare some people, but follow me. The thing I dig in the most to is trauma. Mm-hmm. And the reason I dig into trauma is because it's the invisible force that's holding most people back. And one thing you know about me is like I have this brand called the Struggle Bus. And I haven't quite openly talked about trauma yet because I don't know if you ever run into this as a coach, but sometimes I feel like a little unqualified to talk about such psychological things that maybe a therapist should only talk about. And
Sure.
I try to be ethical. So I don't talk about trauma, but I just discovered a way to talk about it in a really ethical way without pretending I'm a therapist or a doctor. But anyway, in my brand, I talk about struggle, and a lot of times struggle is an expression of trauma. Like, I really think that there's two types of struggle. There's like the struggle from being out of your comfort zone because you're learning a new skill. There's a learning curve. Like, that is one type of struggle. Then you have the struggle, we'll call it a perpetual struggle, which is an expression of your patterns that are unresolved. And a lot of times it's an expression of trauma that you've had before. And so I really enjoy learning about this stuff, but what I mostly enjoy learning about is like how to create compassion and even reverence for your trauma, because I think that's like where the real self-love is. And I think that's like where we can create the most healing, is through understanding and creating compassion.
I love that. We're going to talk more about this on this episode, because notice I didn't introduce you as a sales coach. I introduced you as a holistic sales coach, which has all sorts of additional implications here. So I am sure we will be coming back to psychology as we go through this. So, Santa, what's something that is inside your comfort zone that might be outside of somebody else's? And you get a caveat. You can't say public speaking because you are a speaker. So I'm taking it off the table. So something that's inside your comfort zone that is outside somebody else's, and I'm taking public speaking off the table for you.
Thank you for
it's my
doing
show.
that.
Because it's my show and I can do that.
Because it's your show. Okay. I will abide by your rules. Outside of public speaking, which probably would have been my answer if you didn't give that rule, is novelty or uncertainty. And what I mean by that, like, you and I are both obsessed with Myers-Briggs. And like the last letter, J versus P, like J, you don't really like surprises and novelty as much, or a little bit more structure. And J stands for judgment. And then P, which I am perceiving, you're just open and you're spontaneous and you're okay with uncertainty. And so I noticed a lot of people don't do well with uncertainty. And I kind of thrive in uncertainty. And I was even thinking of this last year. This last year, I started my own business full time. I left my nice 6-figure sales job, which I loved, but I really wanted to follow my heart and do my business. And then I also left my life in New York City and came to Luxembourg. And then I also adopted my family dog. It's my dog who like moved around in our family a few times. So it was like 3 really big, uncertain changes. And it was even a lot for me, but I would say more than the average person, I'm okay with uncertainty.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just to share this with you, I don't think we've talked about this. The Myers-Briggs, I did it recently. Actually, it was a year ago, and you're my friend Molly. I don't know if you know her, but we did a whole series on podcasts last year. One of the things we did was Molly and Jason talk Myers-Briggs. She's a Myers-Briggs coach, and she coached me through my Myers-Briggs. And the one that I did, it not only gives you the letter, but it gives you metrics inside of each letter. And so I'm a pretty high J, and then the ability to be adaptable and to flex, I'm an all the way P, which is interesting. So I also really like uncertainty when I can attach some sort of adventure or possibility to it. But where you and I are very different is I'm like always on time. I generally have a plan. I generally have like strategy. And you're more like, hey, it's going to work out. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I actually get hives when I'm not on time. And you're like, a couple minutes late is all good. Like, let's figure it out. So it's interesting because how it shows up for me is like I say yes to a lot of things, but then I am very regimented in other ways. And you're more of a straight P all the way, perceiving like you're just a yes to things and not having to have it go a certain way.
Exactly. Yeah. Showing up a few minutes late is early for me. And no, I'm just kidding. That's something that definitely I'm not committing to. But I'm going to say there is a downfall to it, of course, because all strengths have weaknesses, or all light parts have shadows. And yeah, I'm starting to realize at this juncture in my life, I can't go much longer with just being spontaneous, unstructured. And I think it has to do with just where I am and how things have unfolded, but I am starting to lean a little bit more into that J. I worked all day today on my business plan, and I'm like, who is this girl? Like last year, I think I spent maybe 30 minutes on my business plan, and now I'm like really like planning things out because there's definitely shortcomings to being a P, and definitely got to lean over to those J qualities sometimes.
Yeah. So flip side of the coin, and we're kind of addressing it. So maybe we'll take this off the table for you as well, because again, it's my show and I make the suggestions, not rules. What's something that is outside of your comfort zone that you know is inside of somebody else's?
This is probably inside your comfort zone, but I would say spreadsheets. They're really hard.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting one. They're in my comfort zone, but I don't like them. Well, I'm good at them, but I don't like them. So does that make them in my comfort zone?
That's interesting. Could you be comfortable with something and not like it?
Sure. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like on the edge. It's almost discomfort because you don't like it.
Yeah. So when you say they're outside your comfort zone, if you're presented with a spreadsheet or asked to do a spreadsheet, what is that? Do you not know how, or you just don't like it? Like, how does it go for you?
I think it goes back to what we just talked about of like really pinning something down to like administrative like structure. Yeah, square. Because my brain is just like more free form, like why do we have to like put this down into a structure? Can it just be nebulous and we figure it out as we go, like water, but no, we do need a form. We do need a glass to hold the water. So I think it's number one, a lack of skill. Like, I know basic things. I run my personal finance on spreadsheets. Part of my business plan is on a spreadsheet, but like I couldn't make graphs and trends. And, I've been, connected to some people in investment banking in New York, and they've like showed me some of the spreadsheets they use for their personal finances with all these like complex formulas. And I'm
pivot tables. No, thank you.
Pivot tables, whatever this means.
What?
It's really outside my comfort zone, but it's something I would like to learn a little bit more or just completely outsource. I see the power of it. But I personally am not comfortable doing it.
I want to share something with you right now, and for everybody listening, and you're going to laugh about this. So you know that I'm a strategist at Brand Builders, and we have one of the tools we use with our clients is we use Microsoft Teams and Microsoft O365, and for each module we have an Excel spreadsheet that's shared. So as if you're a Brand Builders client, you have a spreadsheet, you can fill it out and I can see it, and vice versa. If we're on a strategy call together, we can fill it out together. Some of our clients think it's the best thing ever, and some of our clients are like, oh, hell no. Like, they're like, I hate this spreadsheet, because we also have this really beautifully designed workbook that has like prompts and graphics. And it's funny to see people's personalities. They're either like, I'm going to fill out every single square in this spreadsheet, or they'd be like, nope. And so I asked them, said, what's your relationship to spreadsheets? And most of our clients at Brand Builders are like entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, authors. Most of them are not spreadsheet people. So it's interesting. They're like, do I have to fill this thing out? I'm like, you don't have to fill it out. It's useful for our calls, but there's other ways we can do this. Well, we don't have any pivot tables. These are all like words. So fortunately, there's no numbers to fill in, because I don't like spreadsheets and numbers in them. That annoys me.
Yeah.
Which is why you and I are in sales, because we don't really need to do that in sales.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. And your story makes me think that people either have a love-hate relationship with spreadsheets. Like, I don't really see much in the middle.
No.
And for some people, it probably makes them feel so secure, like they're in control. And I could also see that outcome, but I just don't like the actual process of like inputting the data. And I think that's actually my biggest pet peeve, is my brain doesn't like to work in that way. And that's one thing I just owned, is like my brain's a little bit more high level thinking, like inputting data, like, oh my goodness. I remember in my sales job, actually, we had to do a spreadsheet for like our quarter projections. And I remember I would like put it off to the last minute. And I would like always procrastinate. And I'd be like, okay, how much of this can I do on paper? And then I'll transfer it over to the spreadsheet, because this is just not my zone of genius. And that's okay.
No, I find the same thing with CRM. I was never good at entering stages and here's where the deal's at. And here, I don't like that stuff at all. I can do it, but it's not my comfort zone because it's not something that I find easy or fun. So maybe that is out of my comfort zone too.
Yeah, I completely agree. And how I get around that in my current business where I run sales and then at my other job where I run sales is that I just write everything on paper and then I put like a one dreaded hour a day at the end of my day to like input all the admin information. But what I also know about myself is that like when I'm in a good flow, like there's no stopping me. I'm not going into the CRM to like unless it's I close the sale and then I need to do onboarding. Like okay, I'll do that.
That works.
But
yeah,
like,
you're also getting paid. You're also making some commission at that point. That makes a lot of sense. I'm very excited to switch something to close one. That is a thing that I really love using the CRM for. All right, Santa. So we're going to talk about speaking. So I know that you've done a lot of public speaking. You're a Toastmaster. You have won speaking competitions. You did debate when you were younger, and you're a speaking coach as well. So this should not be a challenge for you. So I give you 5 minutes, and you can speak on anything you want, and everybody in the world's going to hear it. What are you talking about, and what is your call to action to us?
Such a delicious question. I would talk about how doing inner work is your life's greatest work. And what I mean by inner work is the work that you go inward and you really reflect. Like you reflect on your life, you bring intentionality to your life. You're not just running on autopilot. Like you really think, why is it that I am doing this? Or what has it so that people are reacting to me in this way? Or what can I do to get closer to my goals? Do I even have goals? What do I want with my life? So really asking yourself. I just went on a tangent there.
No, I like we're listening to Santa's inner voice right now. That's literally your inner voice talking. It's so good.
I have asked myself all of these questions. And the reason why this is so important is because so many of us wake up one day and then we realize like, oh my gosh, what have I done with my life? There was no intentionality. Life went by so quickly and I never stopped to ask myself, what is it that I really want? And stopping to do the inner work is the key to do that. I think there's two reasons people don't do it. Number one is not sexy, which is what I want to change as a holistic sales coach. One of my missions being the holistic sales coach is like to make self-development sexy. I don't think anyone out there, like we are going to have some sexy self-development. Like self-development is what all the cool kids do now. It's the next TikTok. You better get on the bandwagon. I think that's like the first reason people don't do it. Oh, actually, I thought of a third reason. Second reason is like, it could be hard. Sometimes you find things you don't want to find. And, I'll tell you, since I've been on this journey, I think maybe 8 years, I have found things that I never knew were there. And you have some feelings about it, anger, sadness, resentment. And it's kind of like taking the red pill in the Matrix. You can't go back. You'll never see reality the same. So that's another reason people don't do it. And then I think the third one is just people don't know where to start, which is what I think our job is so important as coaches, to ask like those deep probing questions, to give people tools to reflect back to them things they can't see. And this work changes lives. And I think that our society, I'm giving you the 5-minute speech right now, just to let you know, this will be the last point.
I love it.
Awesome. So the thing is like our society has such an imbalance between the inner and the outer work. And what I would call the outer work is just like work that's visible to other people, going to work, posting on the gram, like things that people could see. And I think our society like probably does 100% outer work as a norm. Like, I don't think it's normal for people to just like stop and actually think about, their life. And when we stop and we think about our life, like our work becomes not just more effective, but it becomes easier. Like you start to work smarter and not harder. So I'm a huge proponent of inner work. Like, please start inner work wherever you need to start it. Look up YouTube videos on how to start it. Hit your girl up. Like,
Google inner work. Santa literally just paid a bunch of money to Google to own that phrase. You're like, You're like, just whatever pops up, inner work. Oh, Santa Victorio. Santa Victorio. I love it. That's great.
Coincidence, guys.
Yeah, just a pure coincidence. We need her to get a return on investment for the significant amount of capital she just spent on search engine optimization. All right, Santa, we're going to come back after a brief commercial break. We'll be right back here.
The Talking to Cool People podcast is brought to you by Jason Frizzell Coaching. Jason works with amazing people who are looking to find and develop their passion and purpose and create their journey to wherever it is they want to go. Check us out at jasonfrizzell.com, Facebook, or on Instagram. Jason loves hearing from anyone who thinks it would be cool to connect, to be coached, or to be a guest on our show. Email him at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com or DM him on Facebook and Instagram. And now, back to some more amazing conversation on Talking to Cool People.
All right, Santa, what else do you want us to know about you?
What I would like you to know about me is this is my way of delaying my answer because I don't know what I'm going to say.
But that's a good speaker. You didn't go, although if you were think, edit, speak, you could just do some pause.
That's great. Such a great strategy.
A great strategy. I always got a strategy over here.
What I want you to know about me is I am starting to make meaning out of, things that have happened in my life. And the reason I share that is because I hope other people could see the same in themselves. So, I told you I'm super passionate about psychology, about trauma, about doing the inner work. And I think you go through a pattern when you do this work, or it's like fun, like, oh, I'm learning my strengths are winning others over, or I'm a social person. You start to become self-aware and it can be really fun. But then there's also a point where you find something that you don't like, oh, I think I'm unlovable. And this is why I'm really desperate for attention. And I want to get all these likes on my reels. Definitely not speaking from experience there,
Yeah.
Speaking about a friend.
Yeah, definitely a friend. Hypothetical situation.
Definitely a friend. And then I think there's a third stage when you move past that, where you start to realize and you start to have reverence for the fact that you did go through this feeling of feeling unlovable. And for a lot of us, this feeling is actually, we talk about this in our coaching, is actually like a survival tactic.
Yeah.
Meaning that, when we were young, and this is mostly when we're young, because this is when we're the most susceptible, we probably had something happen in our life in which we internalized the message, I am unlovable. And then from that place of feeling unlovable, we start to overcompensate in ways that helped us to survive, as we could see at that time. So you really start to create meaning for your journey, and you start to create reverence and compassion for your journey once you go through that really icky phase of, oh my God, what? I think I'm unlovable. This is so crazy.
Yeah.
And then you start to see, wow, I can create meaning out of this. And because I have felt unlovable, I can hold space for other people who have felt unlovable, or I can tell people who are in the messy middle, I promise you won't be there forever. So that's the thing I want you to know about me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really hope it inspires other folks who might be in a similar situation.
Yeah. Do you generally relate to yourself as lovable now?
Such a good question. It's so funny. I don't even consciously think about my lovability anymore. Because it's I guess it's just something I don't think about anymore because I'm just more secure in it. Of course, I have, as each person does, I have triggers in which I don't feel lovable. And those are the moments where I start to question it. And then, I have learned because of this work how to soothe myself in those moments and then come back to that baseline of being okay, I'm lovable. Just someone pushed me in a very sore area. We're healing that area. They probably didn't mean to do that. But yeah, in general, I think I'm pretty lovable.
Yeah. I'm going to give you and the audience the $1 million pro tip on how to feel lovable. You ready?
Look in the mirror.
Get a dog.
Oh, that's such a You already know. Preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I know you're also a huge dog fan. I'm a huge dog fan. Man, you get a dog and you're like, God, I'm a real piece of shit today. You're like, but this dog doesn't think so. This dog thinks I'm the best thing ever.
Oh my god, it reminds me of the movie Marley and Me when at the end
Yeah.
it says like the dog doesn't care how rich or poor or how likable you are, like they just love you. That's so
They
true.
just love you. I think that's what they were specifically created to be to love us no matter what. So yeah, there you go. That's the big takeaway from this whole episode is the big takeaway.
Anything. Just take this one thing.
The memeable thing is go get a dog.
Exactly. We are not sponsored by the ASPCA.
No. My aunt is retired now, but she was a therapist and she's a huge dog lover. And she would have her dogs come and sit in her office because she'd work from her house. She would have her dogs come sit in the office, and she was doing deep trauma work like PTSD, sexual drug addiction, like really, heavy work. And she said it's magical to have a dog. And they're like, there's something about dogs that's just so calming for people. So yeah, her patients would go, hey, can we have the dogs come in and sit by us? It's like pet them. There's something very magical about dogs specifically.
Oh my goodness. And that magic is called oxytocin.
Oxytocin. Yeah, spoken like Vanessa Van Edwards. I love it.
Release when you touch them.
Yeah, that's so good.
Sorry,
all right, Santa. So no, it's great. No, I like that. Yeah, it's oxytocin for sure. So Santa, what do you want to ask me about?
Oh, well, since we're on the subject of dogs, you've probably never gotten this question. What is your advice for a first-time dog owner?
Advice for a first-time dog owner. This is interesting because I'm thinking about how many dogs I've personally owned. So we had a dog, and we got a dog when I was 12, but I wasn't fully responsible for her. I got a dog by myself when I was 23. My fiance at the time, now my wife, we got a dog when we were engaged, and then my family, we got a dog. So we got a dog in February of 2021. So I've had 4 dogs in my life. And then on top of that, my grandmother had a lot of dogs. I'm just going to leave it at that. And then my aunt had a lot of dogs too. So I grew up with a lot of dogs. So advice for a first-time dog owner. Let's see. Number 1, it's more work than you think it is. It's not like having a kid as somebody who has kids and has had dogs, but it's significant work. Number 2, budget for more than you think it's going to cost. Vet bills. I don't know if you've had to take your guy over some vet bills, but it's not cheap. Mm-hmm. We just had our dog, Sunshine. She just got spayed a few weeks ago, and then we had to get her up to date for the kennel because we had to put her in a kennel this last weekend. It was like $300 some bucks for like these basic shots that all dogs need. So 1, it's gonna take more time than you expect. 2, it's going to take likely more money than you budgeted. 3, unless you get a breed that just doesn't care, walking is the best antidote to all the things that dog will do. So Sunshine gets a ton of exercise. She's a golden retriever. I know you have a German Shepherd, another high energy breed, needs a lot of walking. When you don't walk your dog, that's when all the bad stuff happens. That's when the bad bathroom, the chewing, the scratching, because they just build up nervous energy. So walking, and then 4, just love them because they're going to love you. And they are much better to me. My thought process on dogs, they're much more in touch with our emotions than we are generally. Like dogs are so in touch with humans' emotions. It's like really insane. I'm sure your guy over there, like he's in touch with your emotions. He knows if you're feeling sad, even if you don't know if you're feeling sad, and will show up. So that's it. So, and then number 5, if you want to be lovable, get yourself a dog. So first time dog owner, but make sure you are ready for the commitment for 10 to 15 years, depending on the breed. Do not get a dog in the spur of the moment because that's just cruel.
So cruel. Wow. Thank you for coming to Jason's TED Talk.
To my TED Talk on why to get a dog.
On why to get a dog. Well, I'm curious too, because I know this is like kind of business oriented, this podcast. And it's something that I think about a lot too.
Yeah.
That is, what do you think dogs can teach us about business? Because I feel like there's so many gold nuggets about what they can teach.
Oh my God. I'm curious if there's any books on this, because there's like Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Repair. There's Zen in the Art of Guitar. So it's like the idea, I've never read Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Repair, but I heard it's amazing. So the idea of like, how do you take a thing that doesn't feel? So let's see, and I'm going to improv this because I had no idea this is coming. The first thing is that almost not many things are actually that big a deal. As long as you have food, water, a shelter over your head, and people that love you around you, that is at the end of the day, as long as your basic needs are met, the rest of it's going to be likely okay. So that's number one. Number two, if you're nice to people, they'll generally be nice to you. Like being nice is actually a huge part of what, for us as humans, like just being a nice person, just like most dogs are nice, that will do it. And three, when you're not nice, that creates trauma. So you see dogs that are mean or can only be with certain people, and it's usually because of some sort of trauma. So they were trained over time to protect themselves. So if you're relating to yourself as a dog, because at the end of the day, we're all just mammals, basic animals doing our thing in the business world, what sort of trauma were you trained in your business career that has you showing up in certain ways now? Or were you? So that's what I have. So I just made that up. I don't even know if that resonates, but I'm going to do it. That's what I dropped for you.
That 100% resonated. Thank you for sharing that. Can I add one more thing that I thought about when you were talking?
Yeah.
No, actually two more things, because we're salespeople and speakers here. We can go all day. But the first thing is to be present, because that's just one thing that I notice about my dog. It's just like he's so present in the moment. And like you said, he's a German Shepherd. So he's very sensitive. Like he hears a noise and he's curious. Or one cute thing he does every time we bring home groceries is he sticks his head inside of the bag to do a QA inspection, I always joke. But he's always so curious and so present with what's going on. And I think if we could bring more presence to our business of not just like worrying about the future or dwelling on the past, but like really like what's in front of us right now, what do we have that we need to pay attention to? I think that can really elevate things. And then another cute thing my dog does, which I absolutely love, is every time when we're outside and we're walking and another dog barks at him, at the end of it, he will shake it off. Like literally, he'll like physically shake the energy
That's
of that
amazing.
dog barking at him,
yeah,
which is so cool. And when I noticed this, I was like, I am doing this for my sales game, because like I have calls all the time where like, you know, you get rejected, people say something that like really hurts your feelings, or, you know, it's just not going the way you expected. And I think a lot of us, we hold on to that energy, then we take it into the next call, and then we're like, man, why am I having such a bad day? It's because you didn't shake it off. Do what Taylor Swift said, shake it off. I'm not going to sing it, but you know the tune. Definitely shake it off.
I love that. I think the last thing I'll say about dogs in business is dogs are really aware of their needs and not afraid to ask for them. So this is outside. This is just a human thing. Get present to your needs and don't be afraid to ask for what you need to get your present to it. There you go.
That is amazing. I love that one.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Good.
Santa, thank you for man. You know the way to my heart. Talk about dogs. I'm going to have you back on. You're going to come back on. We're literally just going to talk about dogs.
Let's go. It's a 3-hour podcast.
It's a 3-hour podcast on dogs. Talking to cool dogs. We'll have our dogs come on. I actually had in season 1, Larry K, and his dog Spider was a guest on my show, and Spider barked at us because Spider's a trick dog. He's a movie trick dog. So if you like dogs and people are listening, check out Larry K and his dog Spider from season 1. It's great.
Oh my goodness. I didn't hear that one, and I'm definitely listening right after this. Yep. That sounds amazing.
And Spider's super cute. All right. Santa, what are you passionate about?
Well, outside of my dog.
You're like dogs next. Dogs and sales next.
Dog, sales, personal development. Perfect trifecta. No, but really I am passionate about, I I think just happiness. Everything that I do, it leads back to this road of happiness. Like my dog, my partner, my home. Like I'm always questioning myself and just asking, like, what makes me happy? And at this current juncture in my life, I'm rounding out my 20s, which I'm so excited about. And I've known that I wanted to be a coach for 6 or 7 years here. So I've been constantly thinking about this work for a long time. And I would say at the beginning of my journey, it was like, what could I do to be the most successful ever? And underneath this desire to be successful was actually a desire for happiness, because I thought success would bring me happiness. And then I got success. It brought me a little bit of happiness for a moment, and then it faded away. So then I flipped and I said, okay, we're going to start with happiness, and then the success is just going to be an added bonus. And this is actually like the core tenet of my new sales program, the holistic sales program, is really looking at the happiness and business connection and seeing how they fuel each other. So that's what I'm most passionate about, is being happy and then helping others to be happy too. Because when we're happy, like similar to what you talked about, of course, with the dogs, where, a dog who's experienced trauma, they're aggressive, or they can only hang out with certain people. It's the same thing with you as a human. Like if you're not happy, or you experience some trauma in your past that made you unhappy, you're going to do hurtful things. You're going to hurt more people. But if you are happy, you are healed, then you are going to make others more happy and others more healed. So it's literally God's work. I've probably said that a few times, that it's your life's greatest work, but I think truly being happy is your life's greatest work.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For me, what's the point? What's the point of being here if you don't have joy and happiness? And it's a bummer that that a lot of people suffer in this world, things that are outside of their control, that poverty and famine and, violence and all those things. It's a bummer. I think we're very fortunate in the United States and places like Luxembourg to kind of, in a way, get to choose the things that make us happy. You moved to Luxembourg so you could be happy because you knew it would make you happy. Not everybody gets to make those choices. Yeah. So it's something to never to be taken for granted.
Yeah. And thank you for saying
Santa,
that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, thank you for saying that, because the happier you become on an individual level, then the more happiness you can bring to others. You can be fueled by unhappiness too. Like, anger causes you to fight against justice, but more sustainably, like when you have more than enough joy to go around, then you can then go fight for causes like that, like causes like famine and war, when you have more than enough. And again, short term, you can do it from anger or upset, but it's not a good long-term strategy. So I would say the more happiness you have, the more you can go help others be happy too.
Yeah. So Santa, what is the thing that you're most proud of? My dog. Next.
All right,
dogs.
You read my mind. What I'm most proud of, two things. It's like who I am, but specifically who I am is my brilliance. No, that's wrong. I wanted to say my bravery, but for some reason, brilliance popped out. So maybe I could be proud of that too. But my brilliance and courage, and bravery. And the reason I say that is because I've just had a lot of things try to hold me back from from those qualities, telling me, no, you can't be brave, you can't be brilliant. And I'm so happy that I brought some resilience. And I was like, no, I am going to be brave. I am going to be brilliant. And it's gotten me so far in life. Like I live a life today where I wouldn't believe it if I were to tell my younger self 10 years ago. And I really am so proud of my younger self for having the courage and the resilience to get me here. Like she is the real homie. I wish I could go back and I could tell her that, what you're doing now is really making it possible for me to live such a joyous life in the future. And so, I'm so proud of her for not giving up and truly believing in herself, because it wasn't always easy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Hey, you said it. You could still be making 6 figures in your sales career. That wouldn't be a terrible thing, but it wouldn't be the thing you're here to do. So you get to live out your life in Luxembourg, in the middle of the afternoon in Luxembourg.
With my dog. Don't forget.
With your dog and your partner.
Yeah.
In the country, let's be clear, in the country of Luxembourg.
Not the region.
Not the region, not a part of Germany.
It's very
not a part
small.
of Germany. It's not French. It's Luxembourg. All right, Santa. I know you're going to love this question. What's something you're afraid might be true about you? We've had way too much positivity here. It's time to dig into the dark side.
Dig into my insecurities, Jason.
Perfect.
I think the thing that I'm really afraid is true about me is that Marianne Williamson quote about like your biggest fear isn't that you're not good enough. It's that you are actually better than you can imagine or more brilliant than you can imagine. Something along those lines. I totally paraphrased and I know I got some words off. But what really makes me scared about that is like, I just have this fear that I've been wasting so much time in my like quote unquote drama, you know, that I could have been so much further along in my business. And, you know, of course, this comes up for me on Instagram a lot. Like there's this one speaker who I absolutely love. She's 25 years old and she's like already given 2 TED Talks. She's like traveled around the world. She went to the Grammys last night, for goodness sake. She's like really doing her thing. And I look at her and I'm like, man, I could have been her if I got my stuff together a lot sooner. Because I've known since before I was 25 that this was the line of work I wanted to do. So that's my biggest fear, is that I've missed so much opportunity because I wanted to indulge in my drama. And I am still like giving myself compassion about it, because I think it was a phase I had to go through. And having gone through that phase is really going to make me the unique coach for some people who are going through similar stuff. And I can also have reverence for that. You know, we're different people. So,
yeah, I think you just had your Instagram quote from this episode. Indulge in the drama. I love that. We all do that. I do that all the time. Oh, it's so tasty. Our subconscious, our subconscious loves to indulge in the drama. Like, here's the 26 reasons that this isn't possibly the thing that I could possibly do. So easy. I love that.
I just use that time to do it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But it is delicious.
So good.
So Santa, as we wrap up for today, first of all, I want to say it was so good to finally make this happen, have you on. Thank you for the positivity, the brilliance, the courageousness. So, how do you see the world?
Sunshine and rainbows. No, I'm just kidding.
All the time.
All the time. It depends on what day. Right now.
You're like, this episode's sponsored by Toxic Positivity.
I know, exactly. It depends on my dog's mood. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But let's see. How do I see the world? I see the world as a roller coaster. And I don't mean that in like, you know, people will say that negatively, like, it's a roller coaster. Like I literally just see it as something that goes up and down. And I used to not enjoy that. I used to get mad at myself if something in my life wasn't working, if I was going up and down. And now I'm just starting to notice, like, it's just a natural part of the world of going in phases of sometimes it's winter, sometimes it's summer. You know, we go into this natural cycle. So, yeah, I see the world as cyclical, and I see it as okay being cyclical.
Yeah. What I hear in that too is knowing you, I think, pretty well, is the ability to, over time, it sounds like you've built a resilience. I'm not going to say weather the storm, but to just recognize that and be okay with it versus, oh, it's a down, this is an up, and always looking for the next up. I don't know if you've ever done any human design work. I would guess you probably have. Are you a manifesting generator?
Oof, I wish. I'm just a generator, good old working bee.
Good old worker bee. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. You're like,
Are you manifesting?
I'm a pure manifesting generator, according to my human design chart, which means that I slog and 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 I slog. And then I have this boom of energy where all the things that I've been working on all come to fruition. And then I slog and I slog and I slog and I slog and I slog. And that is exactly the experience of my life. It always has been. My sales career is always like that. My business is like that. So, and I say this because for those listening who identify with that, is the idea that over time you just, and the person who the person who actually gave this to me is a mutual friend of ours. So like the practice here is to just like recognize you're in it and be okay with it. Or like, hey, is this part of your process? And it's actually a really good thing. Because I was like, no, I can't be like this. What's the thing? Well, how do I get out of it? And like, it's actually just part of my process. If you believe human design work, which for anybody who's ever done human design, when you get your chart, most of the time you're like, this is a little uncanny. There's something to it. I don't know if it's the truth, but there's something to it. So you're just a good old generator. All right, I have some spreadsheets I need you to fill out then.
Oh, goodness.
You're like, now I see the world as a deep, dark place now that we've ended the episode with spreadsheets.
The world has just become gray.
Yeah. All right, Santa. So you mentioned Instagram Reels. You mentioned TikTok. You mentioned a program you've got. So how can the audience connect with you, find you, learn more about you, follow your amazing creative spirit online, and perhaps connect with you in person? Virtually or in person. If they're in Luxembourg, in person.
Yes, if they're in Luxembourg, please hit me up. But the audience can find me, connect with me, follow me, and generally just see who I am on Instagram at santavictorio.com. Yep. No, that's wrong. Instagram at just Santa Victorio. So I'm also developing my website. So I just like mesh those two together.
Yeah.
And soon I will have a website called The Holistic Sales Coach.
Cool.
And you can find a lot more about my holistic sales program there. And lastly, you can find me at LinkedIn at Santa Victorio CSP, which does not stand for Certified Speaking Professional, which soon I will get that. But no, it's actually for Certified Staffing Professional, because I used to be in the staffing industry. So that's where you can find me.
There you go. Awesome, Santa. Again, thank you so much for being on today. And as a listener, you know the tradition we have here. I'm going to look for some additional words of wisdom over the top, what you've already given us a ton. So what do you want to leave us with today? Short and sweet. Santa, words of wisdom.
Love yourself. That's it.
Love yourself. That's it. I'm leaving the that's it in there. I think that's perfect.
Please.
When you said it, I had this image of Beyonce for some reason. Like, love yourself. That's it.
I could see, man, I should like make an Instagram reel audio of that. Beyonce's voice going, love yourself. That's it. Okay,
that sounds like something she would say. Yeah, that's right. You just you take Beyonce and then you create those things on TikTok that I don't understand, where you like, it's not your voice, but it's somebody else's voice, which you're really good at. And I'm like, have never even tried. So I could probably do it, but I don't even know.
So fun. Once you do it, Santa, you will get hooked.
I see them, I have to say, as we wrap up this episode, I see some of them, I'm like, this is horrible. But I see others and I'm like, this is so good. It's so in sync, so perfect. And then I see some of them and it's not synced. I'm like, this is so bad.
Yeah, I hate to be an audio snob, but I agree. If your words don't match the sound,
it's terrible.
Do not post.
Do not post. Go back and whatever it takes to line those things up. All right, Santa, enjoy the rest of the day over there in beautiful Luxembourg, and I'm sure we'll be connecting soon. We'll have you back on. We'll do a dog episode. You, me, and Larry. We'll bring our dogs on and have a dog episode.
Perfect. Let's do it. Thanks so much, Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Talking to Cool People with Jason Frizzell. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and give us a shout out, or take a moment to leave a review on iTunes. If something from today's episode piqued your interest and you'd like to connect, email us at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com. We love hearing from our listeners because you're cool people too.